Battling with Tony Stewart in that 14 car. Tony drove that 20 car for 10 years before he moved on to Stewart-Haas Racing the beginning of last year.
I think Joey Logano is going to have to learn, and he's learned it very quickly and learned it very well. You can't assume anything. You can't assume that that guy behind you is not going to run into you. You can't assume that that guy running up beside you is not going to, especially at the end of a race. You got to assume that that guy's going to try to go at the win just as bad as wants it just as badly as you do.
And that's what happened. You know, Logano said he got hit by Biffle, and Biffle said, I had a run and I was in there and I wasn't lifting.
Yep. Logano kind of turned down just a tad. Shouldn't have done that.
Darrell, take a look at this right here. That's brake. And if you notice, even at the speed you're running here, these guys are definitely laying on that brake. And the reason I bring that up, I noticed on all of our top cars a while ago when they made that pit stop, like Johnson, Boyer, Harvick, a lot of brake dust coming out of those front wheels. You use a lot of brake here.
Yeah, you do. Of course, you're going off these corners at over 200 miles an hour, so you got to lower it up a little bit. But the other thing these guys do that I just never really figured out, I guess, was what they call trail brake. They used a brake and the gas sorted together to keep the nose of the car planted to make it turn better. I never had much luck doing that, but these guys have perfected it.
105 laps complete, and the champ from El Cajon, 120 miles from here, Jimmie Johnson leads.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
Check out this scooter. Want to win it? Or other cool prizes, including a VIP race weekend? Log on to ups.com/racing and enter for your chance to win.
Tell you what, race fans can make a little money watching this sport, you know.
109 laps complete, Darrell. Jimmie Johnson leading his teammate Mark Martin by a second and a half. Greg Biffle 4.5 off the lead. Matt Kenseth 5.5, and Brian Vickers 6 seconds out of first place. 30 cars still on the lead lap. Let's go downstairs for our DirecTV pit whip. Dick.
Well, Tony Stewart started in the 16th position, Mike, and dropped back from there. The car was just playing too tight early in the race, but the crew has worked on it. Stewart now has cracked the top 10. Let's go to Matt.
Dick, NASCAR reminded the drivers in the drivers meeting after a rash of pit road speeding penalties, 12 on Saturday in the nationwide race, to watch themselves today. Juan Pablo, one of 3 drivers hit on the last stop. He's going to be more concerned about his next stop, but Brian Patty made full use of that opportunity by topping it off the field and pulled the spring rubber out of the left rear to try to change the balance of this race car.
This has not been one of Ryan Newman's better tracks, but there is optimism in the 39 camp. Tony Gibson said they are better here today than they have ever been. They unloaded fast. Ryan Newman and crew chief Tony Gibson went out to dinner last night. Tony said Ryan ecstatic. He started 18th. Right now, he is all the way up into the top 10 in 9th. Steve?
Well, Brian Vickers rides 5th right now, Krista. He just told crew chief Brian Pemberton, I'm still a little bit on the loose side, but I think we have something to work with. Brian Pemberton said they added air to both right side tires on the last stop.
Thanks, folks. You're going to enjoy our DirecTV head-to-head knockout. You fill out your bracket, we'll fill out ours. And one of you watching at home could win a Roush Mustang, or maybe even with a perfect bracket, $1 million. To learn more, visit directv.com/NASCAR.
Yeah, this is not fantasy.
This is no game.
Drivers will make money on this deal.
Drivers for their favorite charities get a chance to win money, and you do too.
You know, they talked about Montoya. Matt talked about him getting a pit road speeding penalty. Here's another car that got the same penalty on that same stop. Jeff Burton in that 31 car. We've only been back racing 15 laps since that restart, and Jeff is already sitting there about to crack the top 10, so he's been on the move.
The other Jeff Gordon, has got significant damage to the right side of his car. He got into the fence really hard off of a turn 2, and see what happens here.
Boy, if he didn't get it, he missed a good chance.
Ran out of room right there, but I'm not so sure he hadn't hit it again somewhere else, because there's a whole right side of that car is pretty skin up.
Gordon going for 11th against the deuce of Kurt Busch.
It sort of impeded his progress. He was going forward. It's kind of got his attention, if nothing else.
Let's update Kasey Kahne, who brought out the race's second caution at lap 94. He came onto pit road for service, lost a lap in the pits as they struggled to get a piece of grill screen out of that lower opening, and he has just been lapped by race leader Jimmie Johnson. So the butt forward is 2 laps down, and look at that right splitter. That can't be helping much.
Daryl talked about the speeds you run getting off in the corner here. I mean, that front end almost has to be perfect shape to keep the car turning and not be loose. They've still got to. They need some cautions to get some more work done on that.
Boy, Larry, I'm not so sure that tire at some point hadn't grabbed that and pulled it back in, because I watched them beat that out and they had it looking decent, but looks like that thing has been that tire's grabbed it and sucked it in.
Yeah, I mean, right now our leaders are running 4170s and 80s. Casey's out there running 4380s with that car in that configuration.
See how Jimmy's splitter's right there, almost on the ground, all the way across.
All these cars look like floor sweepers. They go by with that splitter right against the racetrack.
It's going to be a long afternoon for Kasey Kahne. At the moment, 4th place Brian Vickers is our Toyota top performer, with Joey Logano in 13th, Kyle Busch 14th, and David Rudiman 15th.
Brian's been right there. I mean, he's been in the top 5 just about ever since the race started. He worked his way up there in the top 5, and he's been hanging right there.
You know, this has to be so rewarding for Brian Vickers in that group. If you remember, they made the chase last year, but once they made the chase, they never even got a top 10 finish in the chase. So they almost used everything up getting there. So this has to be rewarding. This is the type of racetrack Brian Vickers always runs well at.
I think I just recall, Larry, and you do too, I believe, of what Chad Knaus told us about the first year that they were in the chase. He burned all his people up, used all of his equipment up, getting into the chase, and when they got there, they emotionally, physically, mentally were just not prepared.
And I think that's the case with this 83 car last year.
Jimmie Johnson on point. There's the gap to Mark Martin. It's about 2 seconds with Greg Biffle third.
The talent competition's so wild, it could only happen trackside. Fast Track to Fame premieres next month, only on Speed.
The Auto Club 500 on Fox, presented by Napa, is sponsored by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
Bakersfield's Kevin Harvick already had a house full of trophies before he hit his teenage years racing go-karts.
Number 8.
Right now, Harvick is 18th with Jimmie Johnson and Mark Martin leading. There is the gap, 1st to 2nd. In 3 laps, we'll be halfway. Today, fastest lap, 39.66 so far in this race. That was set by Kasey Kahne. And right now, Greg Biffle would be 24 points up on Clint Boyer. Never too early to start thinking about points. For more NASCAR stats, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile at sprint.com/speed.
No, you can't. You have to start thinking about points from the minute the green flag drops at Daytona, like Daryl points out. We've got a 26 race season, and that's to get you into that chase.
About what is, Larry, that historically I think it's been 5 to 7 races that whoever's in the top 12 at that point usually stays in the top 12. Last year, the only exception, I believe, was Mark Martin, who's worked his way into the chase. He was outside of the 12 after about 7 races.
Yeah, Mark had a couple of engine failures, including this race 1 year ago.
We just saw Tony Stewart flash by. He's worked his way up to 5th, displacing Clint Boyer. And Jeff Gordon and Jeff Burton moving together now up into the top 10, 9th and 10th.
We've talked about Jeff and Jeff quite a bit.
And they've been in this configuration. It's like those Childress cars in 3 and 4. They love the apron. Boyer, Harvick, and Burton. California is one of only 4 tracks currently on the Sprint Cup Series where Richard Childress Racing has not been to victory lane. Having a look at Matt Kenseth, the defending champion of the Auto Club 500.
And his Crown Royal Fusion, we're told, might have something blocking that radiator inlet. Look up underneath the bumper, and there's that piece of paper.
Right up under there, you can see it.